Dandy's World is a game I've had on my radar for a while, and there was one particular character I had my eyes on, Squirm. Something about this sad worm tugged on my heartstrings. For a while, I've wanted to make a craft for this little guy, but didn't want to come across as a Dandy's World LARPer. But then, a few weeks ago, I actually played the game for the first time. I had fun, and now I won't feel any guilt over turning Squirm into a 3D printed art figure. Let's get started. Before sculpting the figure, I need to plan out what I want to model. There isn't any official artwork or renders of Squirm facing head on or from the side, so I draw them out myself. Turnaround references help a lot when 3D modeling. I did make a few small tweaks to fit my own personal style. First were the legs. Squirm's in-game legs look more like My Little Pony legs as opposed to caterpillar or bug legs. And that just bothered me a whole lot, but since this is my figure, I get to make whatever changes I want. I also gave Squirm a visible eyelid. I wanted to add some more dimension to the figure, and I thought matching the eyelid to the dark green parts of Squirm's body would look nice. I tried playing with a purple eyelid to mimic older shows with droopy-eyed characters, but I didn't like the color composition with Squirm. After playing around with other ideas, I land on a design I am happy with, and now it's time to work on the 3D model. I use Blender for my sculpting. I start out with a sphere and use different sculpting tools to push and pull the geometry into whatever shape I want. And I block out the rest of the body using a similar method. To blend the shapes, I join them together and apply a remesh modifier, and then smooth the shapes together. Afterwards, I go back in and redefine my creases. Sculpting in Blender takes a little bit to master, and I find some of the tools to be a little janky when I'm trying to work with them. I don't work in sculpt mode a lot, so I likely just need more practice. I got kind of sick of sculpting for a bit, so I do some subdivision modeling for the legs, aka I model with a cube that has a subdivision surface modifier, and use the mirror modifier to make the rest of the legs. I also use subdivision modeling to make the antennae. For the arms, I use curves, and this is something I learned when looking up how to make Roblox hair sometime in 2020. After converting my curves to a mesh, I tried to sculpt individual fingers on Squirm's hands, but it ended up looking really cursed, so I smoothed them down. Sometimes less is more. I also chose to model a book, since Squirm has a habit of chomping them up. Then I start refining some of the facial details. All of the toons in Dandy's World have 2D drawn faces, and I could do something similar with this model, but I risk the figure looking really flat. So instead of a completely 2D painted face, I wanted to sculpt out some details. I mask out where I want the eyes to sit, extract that selection, use a Boolean modifier to cut out the eye shape, and then use additional shapes and curves to model out the rest of the raised details. This is something you see with a lot of manufactured figures and toys. Not only do these details add some depth to the face, it serves as a great guide for painting later on. After I was happy with the final sculpt, I make a quick rig to pose the body. I should have posed the body during the blockout before doing a detailed sculpt, but it's fine. I just use the arbiter to turn the body slightly to mimic Squirm's official render. After a bit of polishing, voila. One sculpted Squirm. All that's left to do is export the model as an STL and prepare it for slicing. Once complete, I send it off to my 3D printer. 5 hours later, and this is what I have to work with. No funky printing errors, and the front looks clean. But the back needs some work. So I get to sanding. Which takes quite a bit of elbow grease, but it's worth it, as the back is now smooth as butter. For filling in the drain hole, I fill the hole with glue and then top it off with some UV resin. I sand it smooth once cured. And now that the sanding is complete, I need to prime the model before I start painting. Just gonna do a super sick and totally seamless transition. Wha-bam. Wow, that was so clean. Almost as clean as this coat of priming. Am I right or am I right? Subscribe for more funny and epic bits like that. Now it's time for painting. How fun, yay. For this model, I splurged on proper model paints as a little treat. And I get to work mixing the lightest shade of The lightest shade of Scream, oh god. And I get to work mixing the lightest shade of green on Squirm's palette. I use a decent amount of green and white, and add a drop of yellow for some warmth. And I continue to build up the white until it's a shade I am happy with. I mix in some airbrush thinner as well because I was intending on airbrushing a base coat, but I think I have to accept the fact that the cheap airbrush I bought is cheap and does not want to cooperate no matter how many times I take it apart and put it back together. That's alright. Painting everything by hand isn't the worst thing in the world, so I get started painting Squirm's body. I record the first coat of paint for all of these sections, but each body piece takes 3 to 4 coats of paint to get a smooth, opaque finish. And I decide to do those off camera since it's not that different to applying the first coat. Once I'm happy with the green, I move on to the blue sections of Squirm's body. Fun fact, while concepting this figure, I spent a good chunk of time trying to find out what specific bug is called a bookworm, since Squirm's title is called Squirm the Bookworm. After digging for a bit, I found that there isn't actually a type of bug that only eats books. In fact, bookworms is a name given to any bug that eats books, but mostly insect larvae. Fiction lied to me. It's not actually a cute little worm eating these books, but a cool fact nonetheless. And doing all of these coats of paints reminded me of the old My Little Pony custom videos I used to watch so much. I loved these videos, and I have "this is after 3 layers of paint" ingrained in my memories from how often I rewatched the same few videos. And as a phrase I repeat in my head after each layer of paint. Did anyone else watch these? If not, go watch them after this video. They're one of the reasons I started sculpting with air dry clay as a kid. And this is what I got after all of the layers of paint are applied to Squirm's body. Now it's time to start painting Squirm's face. I start with the eyelid. Then I fill in the whites of Squirm's eyes. Then fill in the pupil and eye crease. I also add an outline around Squirm's eye, but I had to go back and fix my shaky work so many times off camera. I think it's the area I spent the most time on, actually. Aww. At this point, I thought the figure looked a little flat, so I bring up my soft pastels and add some blushing to some areas. Aw, it's like I'm giving him a little makeover. To save myself the struggle, I use a fine liner for the mouth. No problems will occur with this decision, trust me. Afterwards, I add some detail in the eyes to really emphasize how sad he feels. But don't fret, I don't forget the dots along Squirm's body. I dig out my smallest dotting tool and add colors in the right spots. And repeat that on the other side. I set Squirm aside to work on the book. Yeah, did you forget I also made this? I didn't. Totally. But this is light work compared to painting Squirm. After giving time for everything to dry, I brush a coat of matte varnish on both pieces. Oh, I guess I didn't give the fine liner enough time to dry. I'm gonna do some off-camera mining to fix this. Now all that's left to do is glue the book into Squirm's hand. And now we're ready to see this figure all put together. I'll admit, there were moments where I was really hating how this project was looking, but trusting the process is something I had to believe in. And the results paid off. I am really happy with the final outcome. Now he shouldn't feel sad anymore because he could sit on my desk with all of his new friends. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It helps me create fun projects in the future, and if you want to see more of this, let me know in the comments below. I hope to see you soon. Bye bye!